What's up, everyone? Welcome back to LoreVerse, where we break down hidden lore across DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and fantasy. Today's a juicy one, though, right? James Gunn recently dropped a line that Lanterns is very connected to everything, right? He said it may not seem like it, but it's very connected. So, the question that we are going to dive in deep today is how might Lanterns tie into Peacemaker Season 2, the cliffhanger ending with Chris stranded on the planet Salvation, and even bleed into Supergirl or Superman Man of Tomorrow. That's exactly what we are going to unpack layer by layer in today's video. And heads up, there will be spoilers for Peacemaker 2. Let's dive into this. So, first, let's set the board. In the final episode titled Full Nelson, Peacemaker ends up betrayed and kidnapped by Argus operatives under Rick Flag Sr.'s orders. Rick Flag reveals a plan, right? Metahumans are deemed too volatile and they need to be contained. So he uses a portal via the quantum unfolding chamber to shove Chris Smith into salvation, which is a dimension, and it's a planet designed as a prison for metahumans. And as the door closes behind Chris, we hear growls from the forest around him. So now he's stranded and he is isolated. And that moment functions not just as a cliffhanger, but as a narrative plot. And it reshapes Peacemaker's role into something more cosmic, more interdimensional, and more DCU spanning. So Gunn has confirmed that Salvation and Checkmate, which is the new convert agency formed mid-finale by the 11th Street Kids and Bordeaux and Harcourt, were pre-planned pieces of the overarching DCU narrative. So now here's what we have. Chris Smith is trapped in Salvation. We have a new organization called Checkmate that is rising in the MCU. And the idea that this Salvation arc is not just for Peacemaker, it's part of the DCU backbone going forward. Which brings us to the next project, Lanterns. So when Gunn says the Lanterns is very connected to all that, it may not seem like it, but it is all very connected, right? What are we to make of that? It's a signal of this. The Green Lantern mythologies or the Lantern series will not be an isolated corner of the DCU. Its narrative will or should interface with the Salvation, Checkmate, meta-human control arcs that Peacemaker helped establish. Now let's talk about some possible angles here. The first is dimensional and cosmic policing, right? Green Lanterns are often cosmic law enforcers, interstellar in scope, right? So if Salvation is a separate dimension prison planet for metahumans, you can imagine Lanterns crossing into it or monitoring it. Also, them trying to investigate anomalies or even having jurisdictional conflicts with Checkmate or Argus. The next thing is the jurisdiction and authority disputes. The Lantern Corps or individual Lanterns might challenge government, particularly if those efforts cross cosmic boundaries. And that could put Lanterns in ideological opposition to Rick Flag, Lex, and Checkmate's policies. And the third thing, right, is power sources and conflict. The Green Lantern mythos often hinges on willpower, light, and cosmic energy sources. Salvation might house energy fields or anomalies tied to Lantern mythology. So an example could be like an alien resource, a cosmic phenomenon, or a prison designed to suppress or corrupt energy. And the last thing is shared characters and connective tissue. James Gunn might use Lanterns to introduce characters like Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, or new Lanterns whose origin stories cross paths with Chris, Checkmate, or metahuman exiles, especially since Gunn said Lanterns is a part of this web. So Lanterns isn't a slideshow, but it's a structurally woven into the same narrative fabric that Peacemaker Season 2 reoriented. Now, let's map out how Chris's predicament, how he's stranded in Salvation, right, could become something that connects Peacemaker to Lanterns and to DCU's bigger arc. So hear this. Once Chris is stranded, one narrative direction is rescue, right? Lanterns might be deployed or self-motivated to infiltrate Salvation, scout it, or extract Chris, especially if Salvation becomes known as an interdimensional prison with wider consequences, which could be like creatures inside, energy leaks, or mutating metahumans, right? And that gives the Lanterns a reason to step into the Salvation storyline, not for no reason, but in direct conflict or alliance. Another thing, what if Salvation is more than a prison? What if it's a hotspot for forces that threaten the cosmic balance or Lantern jurisdictions? What if creatures or energies escape from Salvation? The Lanterns might need to intervene to prevent cross-dimensional contamination or cosmic damage. And Chris stranded there means that Lanterns have a personal stake. Rescue a hero, but also stop threats. Think about this too. Let's suppose Earth agencies or Checkmate, both born out of the Peacemaker's finale, right, assert control over salvation or over who enters it. That means the Lanterns might clash with those agencies over sovereignty or methods, and that would make Lanterns part of the internal political struggle, bridging earthbound metahuman control and cosmic law. Another idea I have, I know I have a lot of ideas. Peacemaker could become a bridge between Earth level metahuman politics and cosmic Green Lantern stories. His experiences in Salvation might give him insight or access to cosmic elements like energies and anomalies, right? That tie into Lantern mythos. And maybe he becomes a key to unlocking something in that dimension. So his struggle isn't just isolated, it's central to the connective tissue. Now, we also have to explore how all of this might bleed into Supergirl and Superman Man of Tomorrow. Since James Gunn has said Peacemaker season 2, right, with Salvation and Checkmate, they all tie into the DCU forward narrative, including Superman. So, in an interview, Gunn said that where Chris ends up, Salvation, what's happening between governments and metahumans and the new alliances, right? Rick and Lex are all a part of the future Man of Tomorrow storyline. So here's some likely points of connection. Think about this. Rick Flag Sr. is already partnering with Lex Luthor in the finale to use Salvation as metahuman prison. That partnership could have ripple effects when Superman and Lex confront each other or even temporarily cooperate in Man of Tomorrow. Another thing, the tension established in Peacemaker about how to handle metahumans, right? Containment, regulation, and punishment sets thematic groundwork for Superman's conflict with authority, civil liberties, and metahuman rights. Also, Salvation could become a battleground in Man of Tomorrow or a side place where Superman kind of intervenes, perhaps discovering abandoned experiments, escaped prisoners, cosmic leaks, or threats. And also, Chris might reappear in Man of Tomorrow either physically or via communication to help expose Lex's plan or unravel Salvation's mysteries. And his experience may give Superman insight or intel. Now, let's talk about Supergirl. Because Supergirl can be another place for this, right? Supergirl's role often, straddles Earth and alien cosmic scales. So if Salvation is a cosmic prison, she might have a reason to go there, either to help rescue Chris, mess with experiments, or investigate cosmic anomalies. There could be an ideological overlap too. Supergirl defying Earth's authorities, resisting oppressive measures, fighting for human and citizen rights. She may oppose government or agency moves to regulate metahumans harshly, and shared villains or a cosmic threat here. Experiments in Salvation might lead to threats that bleed into Earth that Supergirl has to handle, creating a crossover point. So hear this. Peacemaker season 2 to Lanterns to Supergirl to Man of Tomorrow can form a sequential chain of narrative dominoes in the DCU. Let me propose a few what if narrative paths and also look out for risk or pitfalls. Scenario A, the Lanterns enter the Salvation arc. Think about this. The Lanterns discover anomalies in interdimensional travel or energy readings from Salvation. They go and investigate. They find Chris in danger and they rescue him. Conflict arises with Checkmate, Rick Flag, and Lex over jurisdiction and control. That generates crossover episodes or arcs between Peacemaker and Lanterns. Now think about scenario B. The Salvation League triggers a cosmic threat. Some threat, some monster, some energy, some mutant entity, possibly Brainiac, emerges from Salvation, threatening cosmic order. The Lanterns get pulled in, trying to contain the spill. Meanwhile, Earth agencies see this as jurisdiction for heavier metahuman crackdowns. And then Superman arrives, right? Trying to manage the crisis, plotting next moves with or against Lex, Checkmate, etc. Scenario C, Chris becomes a wild card. Chris learns secrets about Salvation, ancient tech, cosmic artifacts, prison control, and energy sources. He becomes a key pawn or an agent in limiting or reshaping Lantern cosmic balance. Maybe he interfaces with Lantern power or becomes allied with a Lantern. Now, here's some risk and challenges of this, though, to be fair. Peacemaker is a irrelevant, character-driven, grounded-ish kind of character. So Lanterns and cosmic stories can swing toward high fantasy or sci-fi, and balancing that tone might be tricky. The second thing might be the overcrowding. With so many moving parts, right? Kristen, Salvation, Lanterns, Superman, Checkmate, Lex, cosmic threats, etc., there's risk of narrative bloat or confusion. Also, the underuse of characters could be a problem. If Lanterns is tied in, fans will expect meaningful crossovers and stakes. And if the connection ends up superficial, backlash is possible. Fourth thing, the continuity constraints. Gunn and his gang will have to keep consistency in power scaling, cosmic rules, and interdimensional logic. And the last thing is expectational management. If James Gunn teases deep connections, fans will be looking for Easter egg reveals, and they might overanalyze or demand payoff. And when that happens, the failure to deliver those things will be critiqued. And if James Gunn did what he did in Peacemaker, where he teased a lot of stuff that didn't really happen, fans will be angry like they were with Peacemaker. But by the way, James Gunn is handling the criticism very well. Now, here's what I would look for as a lore nerd if I were watching these shows. Number one, I am looking for energy signatures and portal scene and lanterns that match the portal tech from Peacemaker, which is the quantum unfolding chamber. I'm looking for references to the Salvation run. So I'm looking at the DC comic storyline about exile of super villains, right? And Gunn has already cited, that the Salvation run is an inspiration. Also, I'm looking at checkmate and chess motif interactions with lantern hierarchy or characters. So in DC lore, right, Alan Scott and Checkmate have had a few interactions. I'm also looking for Chris's communication or signal trace showing up in Lanterns or Superman arcs, which calls for a rescue or data from Salvation, etc. The fifth thing I'm looking for is cosmic anomalies leaking into Earth. So I'm looking for creatures or disturbances originating from Salvation affecting Earth, forcing Lanterns or Superman to act. The sixth thing I'm looking for is Lex, Rick Flag, and the government interest in cosmic tech. So I'm looking for if they want to weaponize the portal tech using salvation energy and harvesting artifacts. And the last thing I'm looking for is the crossover episode / possible guest appearances. Chris appearing in a Lanterns episode or a Lantern appearing in a Peacemaker flashback or Superman reacting to salvation events. If those clues show up, that's strong confirmation that this is just not hype, but it's a truly interconnected DCU narrative. So to wrap this up, James Gunn's line that the Lanterns are very connected to all of that signals that the Salvation checkmate arc for Peacemaker season 2 is not isolated. It's a seedbed for cosmic, interdimensional, political, and metahuman stories to come. Chris's fate in Salvation is going to be central, not an afterthought. Lantern, Supergirl, and Superman Man of Tomorrow, they're all potentially threads woven into the same tapestry. And if Gunn pulls this off, we are looking at a DCU where the boundary between Earth, dimension, and the cosmos is kind of flowing all together, where stories can ripple across shows and films in surprising, deeply lore rich ways. Now let me know in the comments, do you think Chris will get rescued by the Lanterns? Do you think the Lanterns, do you expect the Lanterns to show up in Superman's movie? In which crossover are you the most hyped to see? Now, this is the LoreVerse. We are connecting myth, DC story, whatever comes up with Marvel and Star Wars and fantasy. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay crispy and peace.